What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another YouTube video. So in this video we're going to be talking about and breaking down cloudretainer, her kit, her role, and how she plays a part in Genshin Impact. Okay, so cloudretainer is a 5-star Anemo Catalyst user. Her role is a healer, sub DPS, plunge attack enabler, buffer, and also an on-field driver. So cloudretainer purely scales off of attack percent. She is quite literally an Anemo Shenna. I'm gonna just be real, she's an Anemo Shenna. Actually, there's one little thing I forgot to mention. She's also a buffer when it comes to plunge attack. I know I mentioned it earlier, but when I say a buffer to a plunge attack, that doesn't mean just for Zhao. I mean that's for anyone else who's got a decent plunge attack scaling. Basically, her elemental skill is a nice little thing where she can sort of jump into the sky or just jump up a little bit. Now, she can do this 3 times within her skill, and the first time you jump, you can keep jumping up to 3 times, and then when you do the third jump, you sort of transform into a bird and then crash and then plunge into the ground. Doing this, her Ascension 1 passive, it allows her to have a crowd control grouping effect similar to Sucrose with her elemental skill. Now you can do skill plunge, or you can do skill plunge, or skill transform into the bird and then plunge with the crowd control. You cannot skill plunge. That is not possible. Now, one thing that's really nice is every single time you use elemental skill, it does increase her damage on her plunging attacks. Now, if we head over towards her elemental skill, when it's crowned, just so you understand C0, her elemental skill scalings, the first leap obviously goes from 208.8% going to the second one, which is 266.4%, and the third one, which turns into a bird and crashes on the floor and creates a crowd control. If you got the Ascension passive, then it goes ahead and makes it 547.2%, which is really nice. So it does a large AoE damage, and it's like a nice little thing. But personally, I think it takes a bit too long to do the third one, especially with all the other things, because you still a lot of on-field time. So I would just go ahead with the first leap personally rather than the third one. But unless you're using the third one specifically for a rotation, you gotta do what you gotta do. What can I say? Now, her elemental burst, which is kind of important. Also, sorry, I'm moving on really quickly, but her elemental skill has like a 12-second cooldown, and whenever you you don't plunge after a certain period of time, the cooldown started casting, but it's like decreased by 3 seconds. So it's aight. Anyways, the big thing that's a part of her burst is a lot of things. You might be like, oh my god, plunge attack buffing, let's go. There's more to it than you actually realize. Now, her elemental burst, sort of a similar animation to Shenhe. She gets her 2 fingers cast, and she actually brings out this sort of like cloudretainer drone. It's not even like a bird, it's like a little drone, like a mechanical bird that flies with her, and it's like a little companion. But basically, she summons this little tiny drone, and she has like an initial AoE damage, as most bursts usually do. Now, she has the ability to widespread heal the entire team. Now, this isn't as much as Jean, because Jean heals, between 2 to 4,000 HP, depending on how much you built your Jean, every second when the active character is standing inside. Whereas cloudretainer, she heals about half of that. So if you're healing 4,000 HP with Jean, or 3,000, then you're basically doing half of that. And again, that's scaling with attack. It's not the greatest, because when it comes to her initial damage, it's like 194.4%, and then when it comes to her coordinated attacks, which is from her little tiny bird, it's about 70.6% scaling at the moment in regards to the Anemo damage that the little bird does. But her instant healing is obviously scaled by attack, and it's 221.2%, again scaling of attack. And then the continuous healing, when I mean it's not a lot, I mean it's not as much as Jean. But the thing is, you got it widespread healing everyone rather than just one person. And it's 66.4%, and it's also scaling off of attack, and it'll all be on screen. And then you've got the interval, instead of every 1 second like Jean, it's every 2.5 seconds. So it's very similar to how Raiden would work, or Nihida would work, every 2.5 seconds interval. And then the device itself has a 16-second duration, and then the actual burst itself has an 12-second uptime with a 18-second cooldown. Now, one thing to note, her elemental burst, even though it heals and obviously gives you buffs, it actually gives you stacks for the plunging. So the plunge stacks itself is 8, and every single time you crash down, it does, it consumes 1 stack, which is really nice, and it increases the damage by quite a big amount. Now, getting into the amount of damage it buffs for a team, or for anybody who's on field, it basically makes her give 170% of cloudretainer's attack. That's how much it increases the plunge attack damage, and it is a maximum of 8,500. I don't think it's possible for any C0 F2P to achieve that personally, but it is what it is. Her elemental burst itself, you'll need about 200 to 225 or 220 energy recharge as a solo Anemo, because her energy requirements is for it's not that easy. It's 70 energy, and she's, again, the energy recharge is going to be a bit of a bomb, but what can I say? She's got like a little bit of a, whenever you go ahead and you glide, it makes you glide faster, I guess. It's kind of cool. But I mean, she's a bird, so it is what it is. Her C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, and C6. So C1 basically gives you an extra elemental skill, which is very similar to Shenhe. Her C2, which is kind of nutty, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of ludicrous how much attack percent you already get from her weapon, her substats, her ascension. It's just kind of nutty, and passive as well. C2 gives you, instead of the little 170, it's now 306%, and then you get an extra additional 100. I'm joking. You get 15,300 additional damage. That's the maximum of her passive. Instead of 8,300, 8,500, it's now 15,300, which is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. C3 obviously increases the amount of levels in her burst, and then C4 increases and actually gives skill healing every 5 seconds, and this can depend based off of stacks that you have, so it can change within her skill, so 1, 2, or 3 if you go into the bird state, and this is based off of her attack, and this is either 50, 80, or 150%. Now, this obviously will kick in once you hit an opponent, by the way. Alright, now moving on to C4, not C4, C5, you obviously know it's elemental skill scaling to make it extra. C6 is kind of big. Basically allows you to spam her elemental skill for as much as you want, but this is like the big thing. It increases the crit damage of the elemental skill by 70%, and it also allows you to do this cool thing right here. So when you're in your elemental burst and you use your elemental skill and you get this little drone out, it basically consumes a stack, but then it gives you a new one. So, like, it makes your support a main DPS. It's kind of weird. It's like, you were meant to be a support, but now you're a sub DPS. No, C6, you're a main DPS. See, what Shenhe did is at C6, she allowed Ayaka to just do infinite amount of stacks and just kill anything, because that's how many Icy Quill stacks she had, and it just made it where it was like immune to consuming all of them. You just had so many stacks, it just didn't affect anything. Whereas this, it literally says, oh, you want to go ahead and have a cool plunger? Well, you know what? Instead of you doing that with Zhao, you do a cloudretainer instead. You just plunge and plunge and plunge and plunge and plunge. But you know what? Whenever you get this extra stack that is given to you from the bird, it's an effect. It happens every 8 seconds. Once every 8 seconds. Nothing too crazy, but I just don't get why Hoyoverse constantly wants to make every support a DPS. Like, I don't really get that. But I mean, it's kind of cool, but it would be even better if you could fly, I guess. But that's what it is. That's all I can say, really. Now moving on to her elemental stats for her weapon. So her weapon has a base attack of 741 and the ascension of attack percent. Now this is only best in slot for her, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if you don't have Zhao, don't consider getting her. But the thing is, she's actually not her, like, don't consider getting her weapon, because it only is going to benefit her weapon. That's all. The plunging damage that it gives you is crazy. Only get it if you are full sending on the plunging, by the way. So when the equipping character is hitting an opponent with a plunge attack, basically increases the damage of the plunge attack by 28% for 20 seconds, and it gives them energy recharge. It just gives them a little bit of energy, 2.5%. It's just a little bit of energy. It's not too crazy with the energy, but damage is really the most important thing. Now, this helps so many people. There's so many plungers in this game. I'm joking, there's not that many plungers, but there's some people, there's a selection of people that actually do really good with plunging. So you got, Lament, you got your Zhao, who's going to benefit the most. You're going to have your D-Luke, surprisingly. He's actually going to be decent. And you have your Hu Tao. You could have your Al Haytham if you wanted to. You could probably have some other characters as well. But it depends on how, you're going to fit them in the team. Now, if you want to go ahead and use her in the team, you can say goodbye to your Gene. Your Gene's getting power crept. Cry about it. Is what it is. Cloudretainer can be used in so many ways, even without the plunging. And she's really, really, really good and diverse. So, if you got your Furina, you got your Cloudretainer. Just making this clear. Don't get Cloudretainer if you don't have Furina. Straight up. Because you're not going to get the most out of, boost and buffing you are for your Zhao. I'm just making that very clear. So if you've got Cloudretainer, make sure you have a Furina. If you don't, then you're missing out on extra damage. But yeah, that's all I got to really say regards to Cloudretainer. She's looking really good, and I'm liking the look of her kit. And again, everything that I've spoken about or shown you is subject to change, so take it with a grain of salt. Anyways, it's been your boy. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and watched the video. Do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one. It's been your boy. Peace!